All right, we gave you buy lows
Mm-hmm.
for the running backs, and now we're back giving you sell high
Get 'em out.
running backs. We
Mhm.
have 2 running backs each that we think it is time to move on from, okay, for whatever reason, and we will explain. This is in Dynasty. All right, I'll give my first running back, and that is Cameron Akers, your boy Cam Akers, okay? How did this player become a sell high? Akers might be the most volatile running back in people's dynasty rankings right now. I can't think of a running back that I've seen ranked in so many different spots for people, around the community. I've seen him as high as running back 5. I've seen him as low as running back 20. I think one side is arguing that, it's impossible to come back from the Achilles. At least we haven't seen that. The other side is arguing, or I would say daydreaming, about a running back that he was before, the running back that he was before that injury. You can tell which side I'm on, right?
Mm-hmm.
He is currently my running back 18. I think he is overranked in most people's rankings. And firstly, I'll just start by saying I understand that he's 22 years old. Okay, and I agree that he's a fantastic athlete, but I cannot go against the history of this injury and this position. So let's talk about the Achilles tear. I've said this before, but when we talk about bad injuries, specifically for a running back, you would rather have an ACL tear than something like this. You would rather have an ACL tear, something wrong with your shoulder, than an Achilles tear. This is one of the worst injuries that you can actually have for a running back. Let's look outside the running back position. Who has recovered from this sort of injury in Achilles? It's rare. It happens sometimes. Talk about Demaryius Thomas, Terrell Suggs. It's rare, but even their longevity, was affected, I believe, in their career. Maybe Suggs, you could argue against that. But for running backs, it typically always leads to injuries down the road for the running back position when they tear their Achilles. And the Achilles is so important for a running back. You have to think about it. They're constantly stopping, starting, making cuts. They need to be explosive, and the Achilles is a big part of that for a running back. And honestly, we've never seen a running back in the history of the NFL recover from this sort of injury and come back to elite form. Okay, we think about Deonta Foreman. He was out of Houston. A lot of hype around Deonta Foreman when he came out. Right, the Achilles really ruined his career. Marlon Mack, who was looking like a top 15 running back before the Achilles tear. So you comment down below, like, tell me, is there a running back that I'm missing that was in Cam Akers' position who was able to come back from this injury and have elite production? Because I could be missing something, but from what I understand, history tells me that this isn't going to be possible, okay? I actually told you guys in a buy or sell that we did of Cam Akers, this was back in mid-January, I was advocating for everyone to sell him. And this was before his miserable playoff run, okay? Let's talk about the playoffs. Okay, everyone was hyped that he was coming back. Oh my God, he came back from the Achilles injury. No way, that's crazy. He's that dude. I mean, I'm looking at here watching him in the playoffs thinking, I don't know why we're excited. This doesn't look good. Let's look at the numbers. In 4 games in the 2022 playoffs, he had 67 carries for 172 yards. I'll do the math for you. That is 2.6 yards per carry. Okay, 2.6 yards per carry. 2 fumbles, both were lost, and no touchdowns. That is not the elite running back numbers I'm looking for from someone coming back. And I know it's a small sample size, and maybe he came back early, but is that even smart to come back early? And some people are going to argue, well, you always get the best that a defense has to offer in the playoffs. Well, why did Leonard Fournette go crazy last year then? I mean, if you're a good running backs do ball out in the playoffs, okay? So for me, I'm avoiding him. I'm avoiding this injury. I would rather be wrong than be proven right and have him on my team. Do you know what I mean? Like, I would rather be like, oh my God, Cam Akers literally did something no one in history has ever done. So I am selling him. There is one running back I prefer over Akers in the 2022 draft. That is Breece Hall. So if there's a way that you can get Breece Hall or you can get the pick necessary to grab him, I would do that. I would also take Kenneth Walker and some picks because I don't think you have to give Kenneth Walker straight up for Akers. I think you can get, some good draft compensation as well.
Mm-hmm.
And then if we're talking about running backs that I prefer over Akers right now, Dobbins, Travis Etienne, Elijah Mitchell, Josh Jacobs, David Montgomery, and especially those last two, Josh Jacobs and Montgomery, you can get really good pick compensation back. Maybe not a first, but maybe a high second. So Akers is my first sell. I've been screaming this since the injury, to be honest, ever since the Achilles injury. But
Right.
who was your first sell, Badake?
My first sell is Josh Jacobs. And if you've been watching our buy or sell series, and you know that it's not that I don't like Josh Jacobs. It's not that I don't believe in Josh Jacobs. It's just that I question if I can get value somewhere else. And this is somebody that has been going up and down in the fantasy community. And I think right now in the community, he is at his peak. So if you can get a good price for him now, then I will be selling him. So once again, JJ, just an undervalued running back, a guy that people love. He's always been consistent. He's always been going in the fourth, depending on your either redrafts or dynasty drafts, fourth to like eighth round. I feel like that's the range that you can potentially get him. And at the moment, I feel like it's starting to creep up. It's starting to creep up and creep up and creep up, basically just based on the talks around the community. Okay, so for me, why is he going up? And is it because of what he did last year or this past year in 2021? I don't think so. I think it's just because of what's happening around him, the situation. Josh McDaniels is coming in, and he's a guy that we all know what he's done at the Patriots. Has always been a consistent running back at the Patriots. Maybe Josh McDaniels never had a running back as talented as Josh Jacobs potentially, but people love the thought process of, hey, Josh McDaniels loves to use the running back in the passing game, but they have Kenny and Drake, and maybe that's a little bit of concern. But in 2021, Josh Jacobs had his best career in the air. 54 receptions out of 64 targets, 348 yards. I don't know if that will continue, and maybe that's what people are seeing because JJ had a big bounce up, a big workload in the air, and I don't know if I can back that. Okay, I'm not saying I don't agree. I'm not saying I don't believe Josh Jacobs is talented. I do believe he could be a low-end RB2, mid-end to low-end RB2. But for me, I'm looking for what value can I get from JJ based on the community talks. He's still a good young running back. For me, I think there's other running backs that you can get right now that are either younger or I feel like are in a better situation. Let's look at the ADP and where he's currently going. He's RB 18. Okay, in my opinion, this is early. This is before the season even started. Before we getting into
too low.
It's
too low. I gotta be honest with you. That's too low.
Exactly, and it's going to continue to rise. It's going to continue to rise and get higher and higher as we get closer to the season. So I think this will change. And once you get closer to the season, you're going to be like, wow, how much value can you really get for JJ? But for right now, RB 18. These are the people going around him. Monty at RB 16. Mitchell RB 19. Etienne RB 21. Michael Carter RB 23. Okay, I mean, there's two guys on this list right now. I can say there's absolutely a way that I want to get these guys on my team. That's Mitchell and Etienne. And I think you can throw in Josh Jacobs, maybe a low-end second, a mid-second, and get a Etienne or Elijah Mitchell. One, because their talent, in my opinion, I think a lot more talented than Josh Jacobs, or they have a better situation. Okay, once again, I'm not knocking Josh Jacobs and his talent. I'm seeing what I can get for his value, because after this year, and he doesn't get the workload that everyone is expecting with Josh McDaniels in this, heading this new Raiders team, and that falls, because once he falls again, Josh Jacobs is done. It's not done, excuse me. I think like his value is going to drop, and you're going to say, dang, man, maybe I should have sold him. Maybe there's a time in the season you can sell him, right before the season, whatever the case may be. So if I'm selling Josh Jacobs, I'm looking for, once again, one of those guys, Mitchell's, Etienne, maybe even a Josh Jacobs. It's maybe even a J.K. Dobbins, Cam Akers. I like Cam Akers, besides what Zach just said. And maybe you can package those guys in, package Josh Jacobs in a pick for some of those guys, because those guys are ADP are higher and they're a little bit more valuable than Josh Jacobs. So, hey, just find out and see what you can get for JJ.
Yeah, I mean, you guys know I'm a JJ believer on our buy or sell. I think you believe in Cam, I believe in JJ, and if you guys want to see our difference of opinion, you can watch those videos. My next sell high is Leonard Fournette. He's such an interesting name, right? I mean, some people who are all in teams, who are win now teams, are really banking on Leonard Fournette right now. 7 months ago, before the 2021 season, he was ranked as low as running back 47. Again, we're using crowdsourcing for these rankings, right? Keep Trade Cut's a great tool for that. In December, he got as high as running back 22 in Dynasty And this year he finished as a running back 6, even though he missed 3 games.
Right.
So his value's at a very, very good point compared to where he is in his career from my opinion. Okay. Currently ranges anywhere from the running back 27 to 37, a little bit volatile there. So I don't know if I could really call him a true sell high, because not everyone is going to be looking to buy him, but I still think that there is a market out there. Okay. Hopefully you were able to sell him before the Brady news, but I still think that it's time to move on. And I think you can get value. Let's talk about it. Number one, how did he get his points in 2021? At the end of the day, I think his fantasy output was very, very situational.
Right. Okay.
The situation that he was in was perfect for him. Let's talk about his targets. I mean, he missed 3 games and still finished top 3 in targets amongst the running back position. He was matchup proof because of the insane work that he was getting in the air.
Mm-hmm.
There's no promise that he ever sees that type of workload in the air again for the rest of his career. I know he's done it in Jacksonville there's one other year in his career he's done it, and that was in Jacksonville. But again, you have to keep in mind what was around him in that situation. And I just don't know that he lands into a situation where he sees that type of work again for the rest of his career. We have to also look at Tom Brady. Was Tom Brady a massive reason why he was relevant? Yes. Tampa Bay scored the 2nd most points in the NFL last year, and Brady's gone. So it's much easier to be a relevant fantasy running back when you have one of the best quarterbacks on your team who's making the offense flow. Running backs are very dependent on their offenses for fantasy points. And the last thing I'll say about that offense is that they had some of the best offensive line play in the NFL. I mean, some might argue that they were the best rushing offense as far as the offensive line goes. Behind maybe Dallas, you could argue. I think that they were a better rushing unit than Dallas.
Mm-hmm.
PFF had them ranked as the 2nd best offensive line in 2021. So last year, to me, it was all situational. Now he's a free agent, and we have absolutely no idea where he is going to go. Tom Brady is probably not going to come back to the Bucs. Let's be honest there.
Mm-mm.
But doesn't mean that Fournette would even come back to the Bucs if he was going to be there, right? I mean, he's a free agent. He can go wherever he wants, but he's only getting older. He's 27 years old now, or he will be soon if I'm not mistaken. And at this point, I just think the peak has already come and gone for his value. So ideally, you want to find a win now team, which is what I was able to do in a couple different scenarios where you can sell him, and it can be a win-win for both if they see it as good value. If I'm looking for picks, I would take anything from the 203 to the 206.
Right.
I would rather have those picks in this year's draft. There's a lot of wide receivers that I really like around that area. If we're looking at players, I mean, I would prefer Chuba Hubbard at this point. I know that sounds crazy, but I would prefer Chuba Hubbard.
Mm-hmm.
There's been a lot of talks about CMC moving on, and if that ever does happen, I think he's a decent running back there. Rashad Penny is someone I would prefer. Yeah, we only saw a small sample size, but I would rather take a shot on that. Ramondre Stevenson, Tony Pollard, Clyde, all other guys that I would rather have than Lenny, and I think you can make those deals. I think you can make those deals happen. And before anyone comments, no one's gonna do that trade, right? I've seen it before, and I've done some of these trades before. Okay,
Right.
I was able to send Fournette and Claypool in a third, and I got back ET and Tony in a first. Okay, so it is possible. Now, you might have your own views on that trade, but it is possible. And if the other person views it as a trade that helps their team, then it's gonna get done. So all trades are possible if you put in the legwork.
Okay. Lenny, I think, is a guy that everyone is trying to get off now that Tom Brady's gone. So it's going to be difficult for some people. My second and last player of this series is Ezekiel Elliott. I think, when I was looking for running backs, it was so difficult. Like all these running backs are in a weird age or too young or whatever the case may be. And I think Zeke is pretty obvious right here. But if you can try and sell Zeke high as possible right now, I think you can cash in. Okay, let's look at his age and his situation. Obviously, he's going to be 27 before the season starts. And that's where, they say that the running back starts to drop at the age 27. I do believe you can sell him right now or in the middle of the season for a decent price, okay? Then you look at his situation. He has 4 more years on his contract technically, okay? Mm-hmm. They do have an out in the next 2 years. Maybe they can, do something without that. Sorry, they have an out in 2022, excuse me. So it could be interesting. Maybe Zeke could be on the move. I think there's a lot of people in the community that are already saying, even Cowboys fans, maybe got to move on from Zeke. But, excuse me. But another thing that has been happening is the workload has dropped. Okay, what has been happening with Zeke? We all know he was the workhorse. Then they get Tony Pollard, and then that changes. Okay, we saw a drop in production and the time on the field in 2021. In 2017 to 2020, Zeke was averaging 84% on the field. Okay, in 2021, he averaged 65.9%. That is 18% drop in just 1 year, which is massive. Is that going to continue into next year? What will 2022 look like? Will it be another 18%? Would it go to really 50-50? I know Zach is thinking that Tony Pollard is probably going to come in and have a 50-50 workload already. If that's the case, man, if you can't sell Zeke before that truly happens, then there's no way you can sell Zeke because of one of his age, and then you already see the production is changing on the field. So for me, if you can sell Zeke right now, then you can just get him out the way, get a young player, and I've done that as well. I've already done it in one of our leagues, in our Bravo leagues. I've traded Ezekiel Elliott and Ronald Jones for Chase Claypool, and I think a mid-third or an early third. So I was going young. I was completely rebuilding my team, and I wanted that young wide receiver, and I think that's a fair price. And other players I would be looking at is Michael Pittman, Elijah Moore, Cam Akers, Ramondre Stevenson, Rashad Bateman. Obviously, if I know there's always a Cowboy fan in your league. There's no doubt about it. You're going to find one. There's always somebody that likes Z. There's always somebody that needs a running back. Maybe you take a hit on this, Maybe you know that you're going to lose this trade and say, you know what, as long as I'm rebuilding and getting a younger player or some picks, I think that would be a fair price for you, is maybe to get a younger player and some picks moving forward. So for me, Ezekiel Elliott, I think it's pretty obvious. Get him off your team. Plus, I just hate the Cowboys.
All right, guys, let us know down below. Do you like these sell highs? What do you think about him? Comment down below.
Yo, what's good?
What
Thanks
up?
for watching. We got a lot more videos.
A lot more.
If you want more videos.
Watch
now,
it.
You can also subscribe.
Right now.
If you want to.
You need to.
And lastly, don't forget that you can sign up to support the show and get exclusive content by going to patreon.com/fantasylandfam.